might do, guys, you might just get straight into it. It's just clicked over to 7 o'clock. I had a few slight issues logging in, but in and ready to go now. So we'll make a start with what we've got. I'll just share my screen so you can see what I'm doing. And fantastic. All right. As always, if you have any questions, feel free to pass them through the chat box, and then we'll have some time at the end to get through them all and have a chat about all things basketball. We always say each week we love chatting basketball. Any questions you've got, throw our way. And second to that, if you have anything you want us to go over in these sessions, then feel free to please let us know, and we can go through those things too. So this session, we're looking at drills with using advantage and disadvantage. So what we're going to do in this session is we're going to look at what is advantage and disadvantage, and why do we teach it pretty much, and then some drills that we can use at your session to help teach that. So last week, Drew spoke a bit about turning some drills, some just run-of-the-mill layup drills, how you can transfer them into a bit of advantage, disadvantage. Whereas today, I'll give you some drills that you can use for that. So what do I mean by advantage and disadvantage? Simply put, it's whether you have an advantage on the court or whether you are at a disadvantage at that time. So for an example here, an advantage could be in the game that you have 4 players and the other team have 3 players. And the flip side of that, if you're in the opposition, you'd be at a disadvantage because you'd have 3 players or they would have 4 players. That's where advantage or disadvantage comes in. And a lot of these drills that we'll go through a bit later start in that situation, but eventually the defense or the advantage doesn't last forever. And we'll talk a bit about that. So simply put, advantage is when you have the advantage, and disadvantage is when you're at disadvantage. But in saying that, at times on the court, it doesn't always mean that if you have the ball, that you have the advantage. That's not always the case. So usually it's about numbers, a numbers game. So you could be on offense with the ball going to score, but you could have 2 players and the defense have 4 there, and then they have the actual advantage because they got more numbers. They could double team the ball and do little things like that, to put you on the back foot. So it doesn't always mean that you have the ball. The theory behind it, I'll just get you to think now. Have a think about, I know this lockdown has been a long time since you've probably seen a game or coached a game or watched the game, but have a think about a time when you have seen a team with an advantage or disadvantage. And I think right now I can think of multiple, heaps and heaps and heaps from the last time I coached the game. And for myself personally, at a youth league level, my whole gameplay is about how do I create an advantage in my offense for my team? How do I get us in a 2-on-1 situation, a 3-on-2? I try and create these advantages as much as possible. And that's what a lot of teams do at the elite level is if they run offenses and have set structures to try and get into an advantage position. So it's really important that from a really young age that kids learn, what an advantage is, or when they have the advantage or when they're at a disadvantage. So then they learn to use that advantage or to cope with that disadvantage until that time can pass. And if you think of a lot of times in a game of when a score has happened, if a kid's ever by themselves and doing an open layup, well, that's come from a disadvantage. They might have done something. They might have done a ball fake and the defense has gone for it and they've made a drive to the ring and made a layup. So they've created an advantage for themselves. All right. And if someone has to come across and they're at a disadvantage. So in basketball, the best way to score, the most common way to score is from creating an advantage for yourself. And in basketball, it is unavoidable. So people are going to make mistakes. We're all human. Coaches make them, referees make them, players make them. So it's going to happen. So in a game, I think when I was a player, I made a ton. You could come out, you could jump at a shot and make a silly error, and the defense and the offense goes straight past you. So if you make that mistake, that's going to happen. No one's going to play a perfect game. So there's always going to be situations where yourself and your team, your coaching, are going to be in an advantage position or a disadvantage position. And the important thing to remember is it doesn't last forever. So you think if you mess up, so if I'm playing defense and I get faked out and I move one way, move the wrong way, as soon as I've moved that way, I'm getting back to try and stop my player. So you've only got a couple of seconds to try and take advantage of what's happening. So it's really important that when you're working with kids, you try and make the team on offense, if it is with that advantage, you try and make them pass the ball around so you can catch up and then get back to a level playing field. All right. And that just comes with a lot of practice, and there's certain things you can do. Excuse me. There's certain things you can do in the drills to teach that, but by playing that and put them in them situations, it won't be so foreign when they get into a game. So teaching them those times of when they're going to be in a disadvantage. And on the flip side of that, teaching that, all right, when you're in an advantage, it's not going to last forever. So try and make the most of it and try and get that quick score, make the best decision to score quickly. That's pretty much in a nutshell what I wanted to cover about advantage and disadvantage. If there's any questions, just pop them through. But what I'll go through now is I'll just go through a few different drills that I've got that are really good at sort of teaching this sort of stuff. So the first one here, we've just got a simple line 2 versus 1 drill. So you can see on the court there, you have 3 players in a line, player number 3, player number 2, and X1. So 3 and 2 are on offense, and X1 is the defense. So player 3 would spin the ball out outside 3-point line at the same, and as soon as they do that, number 2 would go out to the 3-point line as well, nice and wide, keeping good spacing. And they turn and they play 2-on-1 at the basket, and then player number 1 has to make the decision of what they're going to do. All right. I'll put into the side here different ways you can change the drill. So one thing I would definitely do is I would add in a coach. So I would probably, if you can see my cursor, if I was doing this drill, I'd move myself right here, and I'd start with the ball, and then I would start with a cue, and I'd say go, and then players, 3 and 2 will split. They can split either way where they want to go, and then I'll make the pass to either one, and then player 1 has to think then on their feet as well. If you wanted to break this further, you could add in a 4th player. If I can just insert, say, let's make it a circle. Let's hope it works. You could insert another player sort of there, sort of thing, and you can do the exact same thing. And then once you pass the ball, this player could come in as well. So then that gets that situation where they don't have forever to use that advantage. Because one thing you don't want to fall in the trap of, and kids will do this a lot, is when it's 2-on-1, they play a pass the parcel under the ring, and that poor defensive person is going from side to side, and it turns into going to pig in the middle. All right, that's not realistic in basketball. So you think about it realistically in this situation here. Very seldom are you going to be 2-on-1 for a long time. So it should be maybe 1, maybe 2 passes before you want that shot up. I always teach my kids that I coach that if you're inside the key and you're dribbling, you're pretty much taking the shot you should be. All right. And then in that situation, if you're driving at the ring, the defense coming to you, if you miss the shot, the other person's there to rebound anyway. All right. So don't try and force a fancy pass. Just go up, try and do your layup. So other ways you can sort of change it. So what you said before, the offensive players can run to random spots and the defense has to adjust. So in this situation, you've got one player's running out this side, out there. You could have them run into the corners, and the defense has to then adjust themselves to that. You could start with the defensive player at the front of the line, and they break. So once you pass the ball, they've got to react and look around of what's happening. So all different ways just to keep it interesting and exciting for them. Extension to that is the exact same thing, but with a 3-on-2. So you once again have your line as it is. So in this situation, we've got players 1, 2, and 3 who are all on offense, and then X1 and X2 would be your defense, and then similar sort of thing. So in the diagram here, player number 1 has the basketball. He would spin it out. They would all space out, and then they play a 3-on-2. And as I said, the last one thing I'll definitely do is add the coach in to pass to a specific player. Excuse me. The one thing is, in this diagram, you can see player number 1 starts with the ball. So the defense already know who's going to have the ball. So straight away, this player knows that, or wherever he spins the ball, I'm going to go out to him. Whereas if you have a coach who's at the top here, where the cursor is, they can pass to anyone. So it's a bit more of a decision-making situation for those defensive players. They're going to think, oh, hold on, let's wait and see where the ball's going. And then we have to communicate, we have to talk who's going to go there, and then adjust. So it makes them think a little bit more. And then once again, pretty much same as that 1 versus 2, the same ways to sort of change it. You can add something up here where there's another player at half court who runs in once the pass happens, all right? Or you could have it where the defense starts at the front of the line, or the offensive players run to random spots on the court. So that's a really, really cool one there, especially say, especially the 3 versus 2. In this situation, you won't have too many people sitting out of your session. So you could do one set where they go out and do it, and then you've got 2 players who come in next time and rotate spots each time. So that could be a really good one. Another one here is another 2 versus 1 drill. So to set up with this one, you'd have 3 lines on the side of the court. So I'll try and zoom in a bit so it's a bit clearer. So player number 3 starts the basketball, and then around about halfway up the court, you have number 2 and number 1 at the corner here. So number 3 passes number 2, and number 2 is going to eventually pass number 1. Once number 3 passes the ball, they're going to run straight to the middle of half court and wait up there. Once number 2 passes the ball, they're going to run to around about in the middle spot here, the foul line, 3-point line. And then number 2 passes number 1. He stays there for the time being. And then number 1 will pass straight across number 3, and number 3 and number 1 are coming against number 2. Okay, so it's a nice little 2-on-1 drill. So you have your lines going here, and then once again, for this one, you can get it going pretty quick. Once they sort of dribble into the key, you can always get the next group to start going, and you can pump through it that way. And then once they get off, they go through on the back of the line. So one thing I really like about this drill at number 1, it's a half court drill. And number 2, a lot of drills you see is the lines are down the baseline here, and then that they come up and they come back down the court. So then the second group can't go in until the court's clear, if that makes sense. Whereas here you're on the side of the court. So once these guys playing here first, once they get inside the key, this next group have got space to sort of start and to start their drill and to start that passing section of it. So once again, this is a really good one. It will teach that decision making on both sides. So number 1, it's going to teach play number 1 and 3 here to make sure they're not standing side by side, making sure they're spread out and they're being aggressive and attacking the basket. So going to trying to use that advantage they've got. And pawn number 2 here, they're at a bit of disadvantage. So they're going to try and cope with this disadvantage for as long as they can. In this situation, there's no one to save them and to get back to level playing field. But the challenge for them is, if they can turn it into a game of pig in the middle, well, that's almost a win for the defense. If they're going pass because they're getting there and stopping each time, well, realistically in a game, that's a win. Your team would catch up and stop that advantage from happening. I don't think this should be there. I think I should get rid of that. That was from the last page. So ways that you could change the drill is you could have that extra player coming in. So it's a 2-on-1 with another guy coming in to help. That's one way you could do it. But one thing I'll definitely do is I'll put a time limit on it. So once player number 3 gets it, I'll probably start to count down from 7. 7's usually my go-to number for most things. Any shooting competition, any time we start counting down, I usually go from 7. I don't know why. That's just what I always go with. So feel free to do that or make up your own. But once they catch it, I'll put that countdown and start counting down for them. So that gives them that sense of urgency to hurry up, and that will be less likely to play that game of pass the parcel or piggy in the middle, because they won't have time to do that. And realistically in a game, they probably will only have that time anyway to attack the basket. Because in a game, if you're in a 2-on-1 situation, coming from the half court, you're probably going to have players rolling through and coming through, ready to come back and get a big rejection or something, or try and catch up. So you won't have long at all. That's the 3 I wanted to show you on here. But I do have a few more through here that we've created. All right. So with the PowerPoint and this document here, I'll send these things through to you guys probably tomorrow morning. So you have that at your own disposal to have a look at and to go through. I understand that not everyone is fluent at basketball like myself, and you might not know what the numbers and the things mean. But if you don't know what anything means, just feel free to reach out. So some of these you might have seen in the past. In the past we've spoken about defensive stuff, and some of these drills double up again. So these are good drills because they do double up. So they either focus on defense, they've got some passing, some dribbling, some one-on-one skills, and they're making some decision-making as well. So decision-making comes right under the banner of advantage and disadvantage basketball. So the first one is, I think this is probably one of my favorite drills I ever did when I played senior men. So Dennis Mack used to always run this one, and it was 3-on-2 outside shooting drill. So when we did it with the men, we did it as a bit of a shooting drill. So within this drill now, it takes you through what the offense should do to make the most of their advantage. So you've got the black numbers here, and then the ones with no black on them, so the black and the light. So the dark team have 2 on defense, and the white team have 3 on the outside. So number 1 starts the basketball, and he could realistically pass to either side. And so the talk here is, so number 1 here is putting pressure on the ball, all right, making a tough decision. And once they pass that ball, number 2 will go out and defend it, and number 1 is going to drop back and cover. Then from here, what's going to happen is what the offense should do to make the most of their advantage is to what we call is overload the one side. And what that pretty much means is to space themselves out in a shooting position so they can take advantage of the extra number. All right. If number 2 stays all the way over here, that's a big long pass that you're going to make, and you can't really do it. So number 2 is going to move in to around about the foul line here. All right, where it's a nice short pass and they're in shooting range. And number 1's going to cut through to the corner out here in this little space here. Same sort of deal. And so from this sort of position here, as it explains here, so number 3 has the ball, 2 and 1 have moved to those positions. And they can shoot comfortably from those spots. And then number 3 is a choice of who they're going to pass to. And technically, number 1 on the defense can't guard both these players. If they go to this number 1 here, number 2 is going to be open. If they go to number 2, number 1's going to be open. All right. If number 2 drops back, then number 3 is going to dribble in and get a layup. So it's forced them to sort of make decisions on that, and it's forcing the offense to make quick decisions and also move to an attacking position to use their advantage. All right. And so from here, you've got the multiple shots that you can take. All right, bang or bang, and then shooting away. All right, and a very common one is, what also happens is you could pass the 2 here, 1 comes out, and you could pass down to the offensive player down there for the score. So once again, if you're going to do this sort of drill, when we did it, we spoke about we had a maximum amount of passes. So we capped it and said you can only make 5 passes. That's it. Because eventually, if you just pass from side to side, the defense is going to tire out and run. They're going to stop running, and it'll become really easy. But as we've spoken about before, realistically, in basketball, that's not going to happen. So you want to try and make the 2-3 passes and then get that shot and then use that advantage, because in a game, you're not going to have the advantage for very long. So trying to utilize this spacing on the court. And we always have said when we played it as well, we said that you stay on defense until you get 2 defensive stops in a row. So that was how we did it at men's. We said you muck 2 stops in a row before you get out. So that was brutal. We used to do it for 10 minutes, and sometimes some people were stuck in there for 8 or 9 minutes. It can be a real brutal drill, but you don't have to do that with your kids. You can rotate them through as you feel necessary. From this as well, so you've got 3-on-2. Another way how you could change this is you could make it add more players in. So you could make it a 4-on-3. So if we go back to the starting page up here, when we start, you just have an extra player maybe down here, an extra defender in. So it's that 4-on-3 drill then, and they can have that same sort of pass where they'll still get through and overload and fill the one side to try and use that advantage to try and score. What you could also do is if you wanted to set maybe a 3rd player down here in the corner, and then once they make that first pass, they're going to run up to halfway, come back in, becomes 3-on-3. Because then it's like, okay, then there's really is a time limit for when this player does get back and come in. So they're just little ways that you can tweak it and say, all right, I can change this to add that extra player in. And you might start with a 3-on-2 drill. You might do it for a few minutes. You might do it for 3-4 minutes. You go, all right, now we'll change it. We'll put a 3rd line down here, and they're going to run in, touch halfway, or touch the netball line that's usually there, and then come in. Or you might put a cone up here or something like that, and they go out to that spot and then run in, and then so that advantage doesn't last as long, and there's that pressure to go quick. And I'm pretty sure the person who's starting this bottom spot down here would work pretty hard to get in and get in quick. So that's a really good one there that I really like doing, and I enjoyed it as a player as well. All right, especially the best thing was when you're an offense and you keep scoring. I really enjoyed that, not being on the defense. All right. So this one here I look at is the numbers and line drill. So this is a 4-on-4 drill, but it doesn't have a distinct number advantage. But what it does is the disadvantage for the defense is not knowing of what's going to happen. So coach starts here, the C and the circle around it means they have the ball, and you space out 4 players on the outside of the 3-point line, and you have 4 players in a straight line down the middle here. So player 1, 2, 3, 4, and you tell them their number. So you go, all right, you're first in line, you're 1, 2nd, 2, 3rd, 3, 4th, you're number 4. And then when you're ready, you make a pass to any player you want, and you shout out a number. So coach is just here. They'll pass it to the corner, and they've yelled out 3. So player number 3 needs to run out there and get to that player. And then player 1, 2, and 4 need to work out where they're going to go. So the disadvantage for these guys is pretty much confusion, not knowing where they're going to go. So they're going to work out, oh, I'm going to go here. If someone 2 go to the 1 player, then they're at a disadvantage. All right. So that confusion is where the disadvantage comes from. And that's also going to happen in the game. All right. I'm sure if you can think back multiple times that you have coached or watched, and you've seen two players run to the ball or two players go over there or something like that, happens a lot. All right, or two people one's not focused or looking at there or looking to the crowd, looking at the scoreboard or something like that. This is where that disadvantage comes in, that confusion. And then they're going to match up, and then it's a game of 4-on-4. All right, I've done this one with my youth league team. We did it to focus on communication and talking about who's going where, and it worked really well. And I've also done it with some of my junior teams in the past as well. Some 14s and 12 side that I've coached responded really well to it. And once again, how you could change this is simply put, you could drop the numbers. So you could make it, 3, a game of 3-on-3. So there's 3 on the outside, just that line of 3 or a line of 2. All right. And then you can go. I've even seen one before where there's 4 people out and there's just one person in the middle. And then wherever the coach passes, that becomes a game of 1-on-1. So, if they passed out to this corner out here, the one person runs out there and these two play 1-on-1, and then they swap over and next person goes. That's another option as well, because that, once again, that decision of where the ball's going to go, that's your disadvantage. You're on the move where the offense is already set in position. All right, so I really enjoyed that one. That's a really good one. And there's another example of it there. All right, this time they've called number 1, pass to someone else. Okay, and I'll also put down there some ways you can change it too. And then there's a lot of these sort of drills as well. A lot of 1-on-1 drills in here that I've included that have things which is cones. So 2 people start in there, they pass the ball, they dribble around the cone, and then they go, and this person has to get around different cones. All right. So once again, that advantage is, changing your position and then being out of position and then having to come back. Same goes here. All right. That distance, how far apart the 2 players are, that's where the advantage comes in. So this is a really, really cool one that you could set up. And once again, you could have a coach in here as well. And like for this one, there's the 2 cones out here. So the Foster's 1-on-1. The coach could pass the ball to the offense and have to tell them which cone to go to. All right, which makes that reaction, adds a bit of reaction time in it. So the disadvantage is, I've got to react. It takes a little bit longer. All right, because I know straight away with this one here, I know this player here, X1, before they pass the ball, they'll already be creeping that direction for sure. All right, I know I would be if I was playing. They'll start moving that direction before they've passed it. And they'll probably do a dodgy pass as well, so they can make up time. All right, all tricks of the trade that kids are really good at. So if you add in a coach, that makes it a good clean pass, and then that means the defense can't, almost nullify that disadvantage they've got. So all different ways, and you can do these sort of drills starting from any sort of position. So the Spanish 1-on-1 drill and the Fosters are very similar, but all it is there's the cones in different spots. All right, and I've done, there should be another one down here, similar. This one here, around the cone 1-on-1. This is one that I do with my under 10 girls nearly every week. All right, and what I do is I'm a bit mean, especially to my nieces, is I always move their cone out further. All right, to try and make it a bit more of a disadvantage and give that offensive player a little bit more of advantage. And also you can always see is if it is a bit uneven and you've got, someone who's really quick here, who's going to get over and, and destroy this player with the ball, you just move their cone further back. So they're going to work harder so this person has a chance to get across here, and they're going to try and get in and nullify that disadvantage that they've got. All right, so this is a really good one to do. And once again, those 3 drills, the Spanish 1-on-1, Foster's 1-on-1, and the around the cone 1-on-1, are all very similar things, but just the cones are in different spots. All right, you can move the lines as well. Move the lines to where they are, move the cones, just to make it a bit more interesting. Same drill, just different position. Another one of my personal favorites here is a 4-on-3 trail defender. Well, this is a 3-on-2 actually, I think. So I've labelled that one wrong. Go me. So what this one is it's a similar thing where you've got the black team and the red team. So the red team has 3 players here. Oh. Sorry about that. So the black team has 3 players here, and they're coming in against the 2 red. And then once they've crossed the halfway line, the red number 3 player is going to come in as well. All right. So then they're going to have that advantage until that player catches up. So as we scroll down there, you can see player number 1, 2, and 3 dribbling down, and once they cross that halfway line, this red number 3 is going to come in. All right, and then player red 1 and red 2 have to hold in the fort as such to try and wait until player 3 catches up and make it a 3-on-3 game. All right, so here the dark team need to try and score quick, keep good spacing, use their advantage. Player 1 and 2 have to try and hold on until their player can catch up. So make them try and pass it as much as they can so they can catch up and make it a 3-on-3 game. All right. So this is very common in basketball. So many times this happens where there's a 3-on-2 advantage, a 4-on-3, 2-on-1. You're going to try and hold in the fort until the other team, until your teammates can catch up, and then you're okay. So with this, how it progresses is they come down against 3-on-2, the third one comes in. Once they get a shot up, and we always say, for this instance here, player 1 pass to player 2 who's shot the ball. We always say the person who shoots it or makes the mistake or turns it over, they just get straight out. So that was number 2, he shot it. He's going to jump out, catch you later. And for the red team, player 2, 1, and 3, they have the ball now, just like in a real game of basketball. They're going to go down to attack their basket. All right. And player 1 and player 3, who didn't shoot or didn't make the mistake, they're going to get back and play defense. All right. So it becomes the 3 red against the two dark team. And you've got another player here waiting. Once that ball crosses halfway, they're going to run in and try and make up that disadvantage. All right. And then play just continues. You could play to a certain score. You could play to first to 7, first to 11. You could play for a time limit. But this is a really good one, and it's really quick. All right, and it gets people gassed. Get your cardio going real good. So there's lots and lots of pages along here. Another one in here as well is I've shown this one before, a 3-on-3 across the baseline with the advantage. So it's pretty much 3-on-3. So 1 passes the 2, who passes the 3, and they pass the 1, pass the 2, pass the 3. Excuse me. And then once 3 gets the ball, they play 3-on-3. And then there's different things about this one is who they go and defend. So you always defend diagonal. So once player 1 passes, they have to guard number 1, 2 guards 2, and 3 guards 3. So it's across like that. But what we've got here is we've added a little cone in. So once player 1 passes the ball, they're going to run out, get around this cone, and then get to their player. All right. So quick ball movement, and then the dark team here to try and make the most of their little advantage they have to try and score before it gets to 3-on-3. All right. So once again, a good tactic is always to add that cone in any sort of drill you got where players have to run to before they come in. And then that's the exact same drill there, but without the cone. So the 3-on-3 across the baseline, same thing without the cone. I might just leave it there. I don't want to overload you with all different things on here, but there's a lot of drills on here that you can look at to use. And with all of them, there's all explanations down here as well that's been added in to try and make it easier for you. Some of them have been made by me. Some of them have been made by other coaches that I've stolen them off. Just take their stuff and to use that. That's the best way to do it in basketball. You steal other people's great ideas and claim them as your own. So use these at your own peril. Have a look through them. I'll stop sharing my screen, and then any questions, I'm happy to answer. Dan, have you got a question? If there's nothing else to add, guys, thanks for joining in. Appreciate your time. Hope you're all going really well. Drew's got a question.
Not a question, a statement. Good to see our senior women's senior coach on board today. I'd also like to maybe put a bit of pressure on him. Maybe we'd like to hear something from him on this forum. Maybe over
that'd be good as well.
That'd be really good.
We're always open for other people to jump in and share their knowledge. Not to put pressure on Ben, but he does have a wealth of knowledge. I know Ben and I have worked closely over the past, and we've spent many late nights talking basketball and talking great ideas. And he's got some great ideas. So if you want Ben, get in touch.
I'd love to hear from him.
Well, thanks guys. Appreciate your time. Hope you're all going well during these crazy times, and fingers crossed we can have some good news in the weeks to come with numbers plateauing, and we can maybe look to start. I see the light at the end of the tunnel of basketball returning. All right. So thanks again, and I'll see you guys next week. Thank you.
Thanks, Lachie. Great job.